I became aware something was wrong probably in my early 30s. I was a stereotypical overachiever. I was working full-time in corporate America. I was going to school full-time to get my master's degree in ministry. I was launching a new outreach program at church and raising 50 head of beef cattle. And on the surface, it all seemed to be going really well. But inside, there was a storm brewing. Anxiety and rage were overtaking my life. And eventually it landed me in the doctor's office, hoping for some happy pills to take the miserable edge off. The doctor comes in and he asks me what I'm up to in life. And this wave of shame comes crashing over me. I had to confess that I was studying to be a pastor. I was studying to become a leader of the church, an organization that professes to believe you are to be anxious about nothing. And there I was, riddled with it, riddled with anxiety and rage. And most of it was happening in ministry. The ministry I launched during my internship at my home church was going great. But my tendencies towards anger and impatience and mostly defensiveness just brought me into clash after clash with the congregational leadership. And it wasn't long before it was suggested to me that it might be best if I just left. That was my home church. I had gone there since my early 20s, and when I was an atheist, I felt gutted. But instead of taking that opportunity to reflect and grow or heal, I did what any narcissistic overachiever would do. I took a promotion at work. I adopted 4 kids. I decided to start my own church. That'd show them. But that little church I started, it never really took off. I even left my job in corporate America, and I went back to school to get my doctoral degree, but nothing helped. And after 10 years, it had dwindled to the point where it needed to be put out of its misery. And it was at that same period when I watched 3 of our 4 kids that we adopted run away from home. As soon as they turned 17, they were going back to their biological mom, going to their boyfriends or homes of friends who were eager to hear stories about how horrible it was living with us. And then I culminated that period of my life with a $250,000 investment in the real estate and livestock markets in 2007, just before the crash. So by 2011, I was bankrupt. Certainly I was bankrupt emotionally, and I was not well off financially. I was abandoned by my kids and standing over the grave of this church I launched in hopes it would somehow redeem me in the eyes of that congregation that had asked me to leave 10 years earlier. So I returned to corporate America. But the anger and the depression grew. I remember walking through the pastures of my field one day, and I was trying to hunt down a little calf that needed her shots, and I tripped over my shoes that I always refused to tie. And I heard this scolding voice in my head to myself, "You stupid piece of... How could you be so damn stupid?" Now, I had said that to myself 1,000,000 times before, but for some reason, for a moment, in this moment, after the 1,000,000th time I had scolded myself like that, I actually stopped and I thought, who talks to people that way? I would never let anyone talk to someone I loved that way. Why did I allow me to address me that way? And that for me was a light bulb moment. This was the reality check I needed in order to start turning some kind of corner, to start really to understand how this thing called shame was controlling my life. I realized I couldn't continue this pattern and survive. And today, that's what I consider myself, a survivor. I have survived what has taken the lives, philosophically and literally, of many ordinary people, from CEOs to pastors to salespeople and entrepreneurs and stay-at-home moms and teenagers. In all aspects of life, I now see people chained to their self-understanding, making decisions, taking actions that they later regret in some kind of attempt to alleviate this sense of shame and of self-hatred. I want to offer you this space as a place where you can begin the process of living a life you want to live. Not one dictated to you by your psychology. A life less crowded by the demons that taunt you into making choices you regret. That's what I want to offer. And I hope you'll join me.